Welcome back to Product X, where we decode the next big thing in Silicon Valley. I'm Rena. Today we're talking about a company that just dropped a bombshell on the AI infrastructure scene. RadixArk, fresh off a $100 million seed round. And get this, NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel all invested together. Yeah, the three biggest chip rivals co-investing in the same startup. Vivian, give us a quick intro.
Hey everyone, I'm Vivian Liu, a seed-stage investor at Pre-Angel Fund. Been watching the Silicon Valley AI scene for over a decade now.
And Nolan?
I'm Nolan, formerly a principal architect at a major Silicon Valley tech company, and I've spent the last few years building large-scale inference systems.
So here's my question. How does a brand new company convince three companies that literally sue each other to put money in the same pot? Vivian, you first.
Honestly, when I saw the term sheet, my first thought was, this isn't just a bet on a company. This is a bet on who gets to control the highway. You look at the numbers. SGLang already has 27,000 GitHub stars and 400,000 GPUs running their code daily. That's not a startup with a pitch deck. That's a running train. And, for the chip giants, it's simple. They can't afford to let anyone else define the software layer that sits on top of their hardware. Each of them has a different motive, but they all share the same fear: getting locked out of the next generation of AI infrastructure.
Right? And I'd add that from the technical side, what makes this interesting is that SGLang isn't just another inference library. The core innovation is Radix attention. It basically eliminates redundant computation in multi-turn conversations by reusing the KV cache intelligently. Most inference engines treat every request like it's brand new, but real-world AI applications are continuous. It's the difference between a toll booth that stops every car versus an ETC lane that never stops. That's why the adoption happens so fast.
So the technology actually forces the chips to pay attention. Let me dig into that a bit more, Nolan. Everyone says inference is expensive. But what specifically does SGLang fix that traditional approaches don't?
Okay, so here's the pain point. In a typical production system handling thousands of concurrent requests, you get what's called memory fragmentation. Each request allocates its own chunk of GPU memory, and when you have thousands of them, you end up with maybe 40% of your GPU memory actually being used for computation. The rest is just wasted. SGLang's approach is essentially a smart scheduler that packs these requests together intelligently, reusing computational results where it can. We've seen 12-3x improvements in throughput just by being smarter about memory management. That's huge when you're running inference at scale.
And from the investor angle, that technical edge translates directly to business leverage. When you can demonstrate that you can run the same workload on 40% fewer GPUs, suddenly, every hyperscaler has to come to you. That's the kind of moat that makes investors like me very comfortable writing big checks.
Okay, so we've established the tech is real and the adoption is real. But here's the billion-dollar question: can they actually make money? Open source is great for adoption, but how do you monetize? Vivian?
That's the million-dollar question, literally. The Red Hat model is the obvious comparison. You open source the core, then charge for enterprise features, support, and managed services. But here's what's interesting about RadixArk. They're not just doing inference. They also open-sourced Miles, their reinforcement learning framework. So they're positioning themselves as the complete stack, from training to inference. That gives them multiple angles to monetize. You could charge for the training infrastructure, the inference serving, the optimization tools, all under one umbrella. The question is whether they can execute on that vision before someone else does.
I'd push back a little bit on the execution concern. The team has been running SGLang in production for over a year now. It's not like they're building this from scratch. The code is already battle-tested. What they're doing now is essentially packaging that proven technology into a more enterprise-friendly offering. The hard part isn't the tech anymore. It's the sales and support game. And that's a different skill set than what got them here.
That's a fair point. Let me shift to another angle. We mentioned the three chip giants, but isn't there a risk here? What happens when NVIDIA decides to build this themselves? Or AMD or Intel? Doesn't that undermine the whole thesis?
That's the risk everyone talks about, but I think it's overblown. Here's why. NVIDIA building their own inference stack would alienate everyone else. If they make it NVIDIA only, the open source community will just fork it and keep going. And AMD and Intel, they need this more than NVIDIA does. For them, SGLang is their ticket into the AI infrastructure conversation. So even if NVIDIA tried to go solo, the other two would double down on supporting RadixArk. It's actually a pretty stable equilibrium.
Yeah, I agree with that analysis. And from a technical standpoint, there's another angle. SGLang is hardware agnostic by design. It doesn't care which chip runs it. It just optimizes for whatever is underneath. That means RadixArk isn't dependent on any single vendor. Even if NVIDIA builds something competitive, AMD and Intel will keep investing in the ecosystem because they need alternatives. The bet is on the software layer being vendor neutral, and that's a powerful position to be in.
So, the thesis is essentially, whoever controls the software layer controls the future of AI infrastructure, regardless of who makes the chips. That's a bold claim. Let me ask both of you, what's the one thing that could go wrong? What's the biggest risk factor here? Vivian?
For me, it's the classic open source monetization challenge. You need to build a sales and support organization, and that's a completely different animal from writing great code. Many open source companies fail at that transition, not because the technology is bad, but because they can't execute commercially. The $100 million gives them runway, but it doesn't guarantee they'll figure that out.
I'd say the technical risk is different. What if the model architectures change fundamentally? If someone comes up with a new attention mechanism that makes Radix attention obsolete, that's a real threat. The team is smart and they've shown they can iterate, but in AI, the pace of change is brutal. You can be on top today and irrelevant tomorrow if you don't keep up.
Both solid points. Okay, let's wrap this section with one final thought. Where do you see RadixArk in 3 years? Vivian?
In 3 years, I think they'll either be the default infrastructure layer for OpenAI development, or they'll be acquired by one of the big cloud providers. Both are winning outcomes for early investors. The question is whether they stay independent and build a big company, or become a strategic asset. My bet is on independence, but it's not guaranteed.
From the engineering side, I'll say this. If they keep shipping at the pace they've been shipping, they'll be the Linux of AI inference. Not a perfect analogy, but you get the idea. They'll be the foundational layer that everyone depends on, and that's a very valuable position to be in.
Love that vision. All right, let's do a quick lightning round. Just some fun questions to get both of your gut reactions. First one, if RadixArk were a movie character, who would they be? Vivian?
Oh, that's easy. The protagonist who shows up at the end to save the day when everything looks lost. The unlikely hero.
I'd say Neo from The Matrix. Everyone's fighting over who controls the real world. And Neo just shows up and says, "Actually, I control the rules."
Okay, Nolan. Second question. What's the most overhyped part of the AI infrastructure space right now? Vivian?
The term AI native gets thrown around like it means something. Every startup slaps that label on themselves. It doesn't automatically make your infrastructure better.
I'll say the obsession with context windows. Everyone's bragging about million token context, but that's not the real bottleneck for most applications. Efficiency and cost matter more than just raw context size.
Fair point. Next, if you could have dinner with any tech CEO, who would it be? Nolan?
Jensen Huang. Say what you want about NVIDIA, but the guy has positioned his company at the center of the AI revolution. I'd want to understand how he thinks about long-term strategy.
Vivian?
I'll go with Mark Benioff. Love him or hate him, the guy knows how to build a platform business. That's exactly what RadixArk is trying to do.
All right. Last one. Hot take. Will open source AI infrastructure win over closed ecosystems? Or will the big tech companies lock everything down? Quick answers.
Open source wins. History shows that developer preference eventually trumps corporate lock-in. It might take longer, but the momentum is there.
I agree, but with a caveat, it'll be a hybrid world. Some things will stay proprietary, but the critical infrastructure layers will be open. That's just how the industry evolves.
Love the consensus there. Okay, final thoughts. Vivian, give us a one-sentence summary of what RadixArk represents.
RadixArk is the bet that the next generation of AI infrastructure will be open, hardware agnostic, and built by the community, not the incumbents.
Nolan?
They're building the operating system for the AI age, and whether the world is ready or not, it's coming.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks to Vivian for the capital perspective and Nolan for the deep technical dive. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit subscribe and drop a comment. Are you team open source or team locked in? We'll see you next time.